So hello everybody and welcome today to our this presentation. My name is James Healy and I'm a E3 student recruitment and admissions officer based in the STEM faculty in Trinity College, Dublin. I'm just going to share you my screen and we can have a look at the presentation. So hopefully you can all see that presentation on screen now. So good. Thank you for joining us for this event today. We're going to explore some creative digital and sound technologies at Trinity College Dublin. We'll take you through the details of the two courses and show you the skills and experiences our programs provide to our students. We'll also talk you some of the different opportunities that studying at Trinity provides, and we'll be here to answer any questions you might have in the Q&A portion of the webinar. Just to start out, I'll introduce the panel to you. And we're very fortunate today to have Professor Mads Haahr and Dr. Enda Bates, and they're the program directors for the MSc in Interactive Digital Media and the MPhil in Music and Media Technologies. And they're going to give us an overview of the two programs, including things like the different modules you study and the different core kind of areas that you'll cover. We're also very fortunate to have with us Nashwa, who's very kindly taken some time out of her busy schedule as a student on the MSc Interactive Digital Media to share her experiences with us. We also have Emma here with us as well, and Emma's a graduate of the MPhil Music and Media Technologies program, and now is working as a research assistant on a project in Trinity. Just to start us off and to kind of set the scene a little bit, I'm going to explain to you what the E3 initiative is, because it's a phrase you might hear a little bit today, and just to make sure everybody's on the same page. So the E3 initiative is an initiative that Trinity has undertaken to help balance technological development alongside the need to protect our natural resources. E3 stands for Engineering, Environment and Emerging Technologies. And increasingly, these types of societal challenges will require a new interdisciplinary approach across the STEM subject areas. This ambitious project will expand education and research activities across the schools of engineering, natural science, and computer science and statistics. And as part of this initiative, we have developed new multidisciplinary programs, both at undergraduate and postgraduate level. We have built and are soon to open a new building on campus, the E3 Learning Foundry, which is a building dedicated to the student learning and practical experiences, and that will deliver the research and teaching within the schools. Also, we're offering a number of E3 scholarships to students on these programs to help support study in this important area. Or to put simply, to sum it up, balanced solutions for a better world. The two programs that we're going to look at today, the MSc in Interactive Digital Media and the MPhil Music and Media Technologies, both share an interdisciplinary approach to teaching across technical and creative subject areas. And they also have the benefit of bringing together students from a wide range of undergraduate programs. So just to start off, I'm going to hand you over to Professor Mads Haahr, who's going to take us through the MSc Interactive Digital Media. So Mads, you want to go ahead and share your presentation?
Yes, I will. Thank you. I also needed to find the unmute button. Let me see here if I can get Zoom to see here. Here we go. I think this should do a job. Are you seeing my presentation?
Yep, you can see that now.
Great, wonderful. Okay, great. So thanks so much for the introduction, and very
Mhm.
happy to be here to talk about this, with Enda and the rest of the team here today. So the Masters in Interactive Digital Media is a 1 year full-time taught master's program. So it's a full 12 months. It's quite an intensive course. Um, which is run by the School of Computer Science and Statistics. So we have quite a significant computer science technical component on this course compared to many other similar programs. It's existed for a very long time, since 1996, when it was founded as the MSc in Multimedia Systems. We changed the name, but the core philosophy of the course has been the same, since then. So it was the first of its kind in Ireland also. And it's really intended for people who want to work in the digital space, either at the technology end or the design end, or across this spectrum, really. So it's a very multidisciplinary course. We combine a lot of different things on IDM, as I'll talk a little bit about today. It's also for people who want to work either within their own company or within an established company, small or large company, or who want to start their own company. So we cover a lot of different skills that will help with either of these. Here's just a quick quote from one of our graduates who works as a senior policy advisor. So this is reflective of what some of our graduates do after they finish the course. They do like a huge range of things. So going into policy advisor advice is probably relatively rare, but I just wanted to mention that it is a possibility also. Um, so one of the things that we do also is that we have a philosophy where we essentially structure everything we do around 4 pillars. So essentially theory, technology, design, and creativity. So everything we do rests on one or more of these pillars, and everything we do on the course is intended to help our students develop skills in one or more of these areas. And the idea is that these skill sets are required to design and build digital media applications, as well as the content today. And this is expanded, and the skills required have expanded, and therefore we need to include analytical, technical, and creative skills, and to combine them. So while the course does cover quite a lot of practical aspects of design and technology, it has a bigger practical component than a theory component. We also care a lot about theory. Because we find that having a good theoretical foundation really helps the students develop a deeper understanding of the material. And this is regardless of whether it's material that is sort of more content related, like production of audio and video and interactive formats, or if it's technical, like computer programming. If you understand the theory, then it's easier to learn new material and techniques, and it's also easier to think deeply about digital media that you encounter or that you create. And to think deeply about it and to situate it within sort of critical frameworks. So we care more about theory than many similar courses do. So as you can probably guess from the 4 pillar, it's a highly multidisciplinary course, and the reason is that teams that create digital media content, as well as applications and platforms and technology, they're always multidisciplinary. So it's really important to cover all of those bases. So we cover a carefully selected combination of topics, because it's a huge domain, of course. So we've selected some different topics from disciplines that we will talk about shortly. So these are some of the primary degrees that our students who come to study IDM over the last couple of years have come from. So you see a huge variety there. We get people from technical background, or computer science and software engineering, network engineering, computer engineering. But we also get a lot of students from design, either graphic design, product design, fashion design even, and also from different arts and sciences like literature, music, physics, and so on. So our class is a very eclectic a group of students, and as a result, they learn a lot from each other, not just from us. And this is part of the course philosophy to help the students learn from each other as well. And we try to facilitate that in the best way they can. It also means that our class discussions are really interesting because everybody brings a different perspective to the class. We are also very culturally diverse. I think this year's class, maybe Nashra has a more updated view of this than I do, but I think we have about 15 or 16 nationalities this year. We have a few more students than normal. Normally we have about 30 students. This year we have 35, so it's a big class this year. But we always have a really culturally diverse background, and that's also one of the things that makes the class really interesting. Everybody brings their own perspective and shares it with the rest of the class. We also have a good gender balance. I think that generally we tend to have slightly more women than men in the course, but it's which is unusual for a computer science degree. But we do have a really good mix of people in many different dimensions. Here are some of the countries that the students have come from in the past. You see that it's from everywhere in the world, really. So again, like the professional diversity, the cultural diversity really helps make our class discussions interesting. Everyone brings a different perspective. So I just want to run through some of the components that we cover, some of the course modules. I'm not going to go into detail about these. You can read more about them on the website or reach out to us. But basically, programming for digital media is where we cover, again, theory first. So the idea is we learn about control structures and object orientation and functions and modularity and so on, which are really technical concepts and programming. This is the theory related to programming. And then the language we're using at the moment is JavaScript, which is the best language for web development at the moment, which is why we're using JavaScript. But the idea is that with the way we teach programming, that it will be easy because we cover the theory first, then it'll be easy for the students to pick up another programming language if they want to do that later on. So JavaScript is just a language we learn for programming. We have 5 of those modules. This is just one of them. I'll talk very briefly about the other ones yet. I just want to say about programming, because we often get questions about this, that we don't assume that students can program when they begin the course, but everyone does need to learn it, right? So you don't need to have a background in computer programming. Some students do, but certainly not everybody. But you do need to learn programming, and you get to tackle a small-scale programming projects, using JavaScript. So we don't expect everyone who does IDM to become a programmer. Some do, and some to their surprise. We had a student a few years ago who studied English literature, and she came to our course, and she discovered she was great at programming, and she loved it. So now she works as a software developer here in Dublin. But that's not the most common journey, but it does happen, and people sometimes get surprised at developing new skills because they get to try so much on IDM. So we also have a course called Authoring for Digital Media. You see some of the things that we cover there: information architecture, HTML. So this is a design and web-focused course. We have a course called Contextual Media, which is sort of our most theory-heavy course, where we cover game studies. So we learn to read games as texts in the same way that you would read or learn to sort of formally read a film if you were doing film studies, or maybe a poem if you were doing literature. So we analyze games. We also talk about cultural and critical theory. So AI, for example, is something we engage with from a critical perspective in this course. Also, we talk about legal issues for digital publishing. If you work in digital with digital media, you need to understand what is the law around them. So we have some lectures on that topic as well. So these are how we cover interactive storytelling as well. How do you tell stories with interactive formats, which is surprisingly challenging and really fun and interesting. So we have now a module called Audio, Video, and Extended Reality Technologies. So here we cover visuals and sound. So the students learn to produce professional quality video and audio studio recordings, as well as in the field, and to mix and master these things, and then also to learn about extended reality, so virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. Also, this is a combination again of theory and practice. We have some theories of the moving image, as you see there, but also practical production skills. Visual and computing and design is about 3D modeling and animation and how to perform visual communication. There's also graphic design component here, where you learn about typography and colors and all these things. So it's a combination of visual focused theory and design skills. So the question, of course, is what skills are you going to have after IDM? I hope you're sort of starting to get a clear picture of this, but we can zoom in a little bit. Essentially, you learn to do content creation and production across a range of different modalities, including video, audio, software, code, 2D and 3D digital content, including extended reality. You'll have a thorough understanding of the different types of digital media content, the platforms, and the technology, and you'll learn to think deeply about them and place them in a critical context, so to get a deeper understanding. You'll also get ability to work in a multidisciplinary team, and this is really important for industry later on, because all of these teams in the industry are multidisciplinary. And even if you do IDM and you don't want to be a programmer afterwards, but the fact that then it's still useful to have done programming, because when you later get out and work in a multidisciplinary team with programmers, then you know what they do, you can speak their language and communicate clearly with them. And the same goes for designer. If you want to be a programmer, you've done design after IDM, so it's very easy to talk to designers and content producers and so on and so on. So all of these multidisciplinary jobs that exist in the industry, you get to try every one of them, and you can sort of pick what interests you the most, and you might be surprised. But you also learn to communicate with people who do that work later on, which is extremely useful. I want to say just to draw a map. So we have practice-led teaching, as I mentioned, and this is really important for us, that to combine these two teaching philosophies. We care a lot about this combination. I mentioned it a couple of times already. So Trinity is a very strong research university, and some of our professors are top researchers in their respective fields. And this means that they can include some of their own research into the teaching and the supervision on the IDM course. And this gives our teaching a cutting edge there. Other of our professors are practitioners from the digital media industry, and they have years of experience, and often they run their own companies in the digital media space. And this helps us, helps our teaching to reflect the best professional practices from the industry today. So we have this balance between research-led and practice-led teaching, and this is one of the things that makes IDM unique, I think, if you compare to other similar courses in many other universities. Here's just an overview of our year. We have 3 semesters, and you can see the months that they run here. In the first semester and the second semester, we have the taught modules, so these are the courses where you're going to lectures and you're doing lab work and so on, and you see the seat. I'm not going to read this out, but you sort of see what's there. We also have this component called the research paper you see at the bottom, which is like a mini dissertation where each student picks a topic that they're interested in, and then they write 12,000 words on it. So sort of like a long essay, sort of a mini dissertation. And then in semester 3, you have the summer research project, and that's where the students pick a topic. They team up into teams of 4 to 5 students per team, and then they pick a subject that they're interested in, and then they design, come up with a design for something they want to build, and then they design and build it. And that's really sort of what many of the students sort of consider the most fun part of the course at the end, because they get to show off all the skills that they've learned in the first 2 semesters. And then we put on a showcase at the end of August where we the students exhibit their works to the public and to our examiners also. And I have a few photos, I think, just shortly about this. Timetable classes, at the moment, they're running from 10 to 1 every day, so they're very structured, and the afternoons are free for coursework. Just a few words about the research paper. This is the 12,000 word mini dissertation I mentioned here. There's some examples of titles that people have written about in the past. We have quite a lot of academics in our school, and we also work with academics in other schools. So the variety of research papers that that the students write is really wide, and we can supervise papers on many different topics, more technical or more critical, and some and the more design focused. So that varies a lot. The summer research project, as I mentioned, is really intended to let the students develop a strong portfolio piece that they can show to prospective employers later on, and maybe to start their own company. This happens too if they want, if that's an avenue they're interested in. So they really are driven by the students' creative visions, right? This is quite important for us. We deliberately don't use an internship structure. So some courses like ours, they use internships. We deliberately don't do that because we want the students to sort of max out their own creativity, to show off what can they do if there are no real constraints, in terms of them having to fulfill some requirements. So we want them to be as creative as they possibly can. There's plenty of time once they finish the course to go out and work on other people's ideas in the industry. So for the summer research projects, we want them to work on their ideas and show off how creative they can be. As I mentioned, the final projects are exhibited to the public in the showcase, and this is a big festive event. So I'm going to show you a few photos from past showcases. Here they are. This was a year we had it in the Science Gallery here in Dublin. Photos from an IDM student, Adrian. It's a few years ago now. I probably have some new ones also, so you can kind of see very different types of projects. Some students may decide to make, games. Some people make mixed reality. Some people make interactive art installations like this one, which is a mixture between literature and cinema, interactive with a touch screen and 3 different screens. Yeah, you see here is a game with some physical components. Here is one that was sort of more data analysis focused, and so on. So and here was an interactive artwork that used a body motion sensor controller with sound also. Yeah, so you see some different examples there. Some people make apps, that are informative or educational, like this one. And so there's really very few restrictions. Possible careers, sort of getting to the end here now. Our students do many different things. These are just some titles that I've got off LinkedIn, for our alumni group. You can kind of see what people do there. We have you see PhD candidate and professor there. A few students every year go the academic route. Maybe 2, I would say, on average, probably per year, decide to do PhDs, either with us or in other universities. That happens. But there's many other, often design or development or engineering. Or yeah, you see them there. I don't need to read them out loud. Employers, some examples here that I also found on LinkedIn, examples of people who are employing, companies that are employing our graduates. So you see there's quite a lot of large companies there, and as I mentioned, also sometimes our graduates, they form their own companies too. That happens as well. Here is a quote from another graduate, Alessa, who is an IDM graduate and is actually now teaching our design module. So she's been out in industry and worked for, I think, about 10 years in industry, and now she's coming back part-time to help us teach this design module. So as I mentioned, this is one of the ways that we keep contact with industry and make sure that our teaching uses best industry practices also. So here, I just wanted to show this one again because it's so important. But if you have any questions about this, I hope you'll ask them now in this session, or reach out to us by email, and certainly be happy to follow up. Thanks for listening.
Well, thank you, Mads, for that very insightful kind of overview of the course. So just yeah, what I'll do is I can start sharing my screen again, and we can move on to the portion of the presentation covering the music and media technologies. Okay, hopefully you can all see that again. And so, Enda, do you want to take us through the Music and Media Technologies program?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, James. Hi
Mhm.
everyone. My name is Enda Bates. I'm assistant professor in the School of Engineering, and I'm the director of the Music and Media Technologies program, or MMT as we often refer to it. So as you can see from the slide, the School of Engineering in Trinity has been active for a very long time, since 1841. So one of the oldest engineering schools in the world. And today it's very much a kind of a research-led school with our professors and academics working in a variety of different areas. But I suppose, particularly in the Department of Electronic and Electrical Engineering, where we're based, there's a very strong focus on media engineering. So many of the academics in the School of Engineering would work in the engineering, looking at compression algorithms used by companies like YouTube and Google and many others, with a strong kind of media engineering focus within the school more broadly. And if you move on to the next slide, then James, thank you. The Music and Media Technologies program, then, in some respects, there are some similarities with the IDM course in terms of its history and its kind of overall philosophy, but just with a different kind of emphasis and focus in terms of the content area. The MMT program has been running since 1996 as well, so I think it started around the same time as the IDM course, or multimedia as it was called then. And so it's one of the oldest kind of master's program in music and media technologies in the country. And from the very beginning, the course was strongly kind of multidisciplinary. The overall kind of rationale behind the program when it was initially set up, and it was set up by two people, an engineer named Dermot Furlong, who had worked a lot in acoustics and spatial audio and had a deep interest in music, alongside a composer named Donnacha Dennehy, who is now based over in Princeton and has had a very successful career as a composer. And these two set up the course with the intent of basically combining these two areas of, creative work in music and in media, alongside the kind of technological and scientific work that goes into the types of digital tools that artists and creative people use to create such content. So this strongly kind of interdisciplinary kind of focus is always been a real kind of significant feature of our program, and remains so today. And fundamentally, we're concerned with teaching creative people and artists how to use the most latest cutting edge tools, and then questioning, well, what does this mean in terms of the creation of new forms of music, new forms of media in the kind of the modern era. But simultaneously, we're also interested in looking at people who are coming from a more technical background, from computer science or from engineering, who have an interest in music, and teaching them about, creative work and composition. And because, in order to create tools that artists need or creative people need, it's not enough to just know about engineering or computer science. You also need to know, like, what are the issues that artists, musicians, and creatives are facing. And really joining together these two disciplines is very much at the heart of what our entire kind of program is about, and indeed what it's always really been about. So in terms of the students who come into our course, then, much like the IDM program, they come from a wide variety of backgrounds. Obviously, we get a lot of people coming from a music or a kind of an audio background, who have done undergraduate degrees in music, in audio engineering, audio production, in multimedia or media. And then equally, we get students coming from more technical backgrounds, from engineering, from computer science, as well as, a variety of other areas. Basically, in terms of our application process, we're looking for people that have a strong sense of creativity, right? They want to create new pieces of media and music and art, and have an interest in the technological dimension associated with that as well. So currently, our students come from a variety of different kind of cultural and kind of international backgrounds. Right now, we have students from China, from India, from Taiwan, Canada, the United States, from across Europe, and from a variety of other places as well. And as Maz mentioned, this really brings a lot from the course. And having these different cultural perspectives, I think, is hugely informative, both for the students themselves, but also for us as the academics teaching on the course as well. The other thing that it kind of really allows for is this kind of cross-pollination between students themselves, right? When we have students with a computer science background talking to students with a music degree, and they're both studying the kind of same subjects that integrate these two areas, students learn an awful lot from each other as well. So having this kind of diverse cohort of students is really, really important, and a kind of a characteristic feature of the program. In terms of our kind of teaching philosophy, then, it again is very strongly research-led and practice-led, much like Mads mentioned earlier on. All of the academics in our program are practitioners. They are composers, they are artists, they are visual artists, they are game designers, sound designers, as well as being very active in research in a variety of different contexts, both technical and creative. So interdisciplinary is really kind of at the core of what we do. And in terms of our application process, then there's a variety of contexts involved here. There is a portfolio, which again, we're just looking for evidence of your creative work. And when we talk about creativity, we make that a very broad umbrella, right? So it can include obviously directly creative work like music compositions, sound design, video pieces you've created, but also we think about this in terms of technical work as well. So computer programs you've written, creative writing, theses and other things you've done in that context as well. Really, we're just interested to see what your background is in music and in media, and particularly what your background also related to technology, or one or the other of those. We don't expect all of our students to have a knowledge and prior experience in all of these different areas, because, well, if you did, you wouldn't need to do the masters in the first place. And in general, all of our students coming into our course have some experience maybe in some of the things that we do, and maybe little or no experience in other things that we do. And every student is different in that way, right? So the cross-pollination there is really, really important. As well as the portfolio submission, we do usually an online, but sometimes an in-person kind of interview as well, and then the other kind of standard application process like references, a personal statement, and so on. So that's really what the kind of the core of kind of the MMT is about. And we are all kind of creative practitioners, so we are interested in creative work and engaging creative work, but particularly in examining what the kind of technologies that are available now can do and can enable in terms of this creative work, and to do new things that maybe haven't been kind of possible before. So with that in mind, then, the course structure is quite kind of open-ended and kind of designed so that students can select the modules that best suit their interests and direct their own studies in the area and the directions that they are particularly interested in. So that means then that the majority of the modules in our course, and I'll go through some of those in a bit detail shortly, are elective modules. And one thing to note is that you are not required to select your elective modules in advance. And the way we do it is that in the very first week of the course in semester 1 in September, every student sits in on every single module for that first week. And at the end of that first week, once you've met all the lecturers and you've found out more about what's involved in detail in every module, that is when you then select your elective modules for the rest of the year. So you can make a much more informed choice about it at that point. In terms of the core modules, then, there are 2 modules which all of our students have to do, and that are kind of required and central to the whole kind of master's program. And the first of these is called Acoustics and Auditory Perception. And this really looks at just the fundamental nature of how we perceive both sound and music. What is the nature of kind of loudness and of spatial hearing, and how we perceive pitch and rhythm, and these kind of fundamental concepts about how we actually perceive and make sense of particularly the auditory world and the sounds around us, as well as music. And so this is a kind of a core module that's always been a kind of a central feature of our program, and it's something that again ties into and is integrated into a lot of the different thesis projects that our students go on to do, as well as quite often in terms of their future career as well. So this is a required module. It's in semester 1. And then also in semester 1, there is one other kind of core module, research methods, which is intended to really build up students' ability to tackle this thesis project, the research project, which happens in semester 3, and develop their research skills to support that as well. So these are the kind of the two core modules. And then we offer a very wide range of different elective modules. And there's some samples given here in the middle of the slide, and I will talk through all of those very briefly in the next slide as well. And so again, students can really tailor the elective modules and the modules that they take during the course to suit their own particular interests and their particular backgrounds. And just on that, and again, a little bit similar to the IDM course, that we do teach modules like computer programming and things like this, but we don't assume that our kind of students coming into our course have a background in this, or indeed have a particular background in any of these modules. Because again, we recognize that our students come from a variety of different backgrounds. Our music degree graduates coming into our program may not have the experience in, say, computer programming, but likewise, maybe students coming into our course from computer science might not have a background in music composition, for example. So in semester one, then, we're very much kind of focused on trying to build up the skills of all of our students to reach a certain kind of core level across the broad range of different topics, that we do, integrating both more creative work along with more kind of scientific and technical work as well. So that would include a creative coding module, for example, that really starts from the very beginning in terms of computer programming and builds up student skills in that area so that they can go on to more advanced work in this related to this area in semester two and in their thesis project if they so wish, and of course in their later careers as well. So overall, in terms of the structure then, it is based around, it's a 12-month master's again, so one full calendar year, divided up into 3 semesters. The autumn and the spring semesters are 12 weeks, and we have, you'll be engaging in your lectures and kind of tutorials and kind of workshops as part of your taught modules, as well as then the continuous assessment and assignment work throughout that. And this all kind of builds up then to the thesis project, which happens over this summer semester. And that would start work on that would actually be happening right now in semester 2, as students start to kind of refine their project idea and write a proposal for that, to give a presentation on that, and building up so they can hit the ground running in the summer to work on that thesis project. And the subject of the thesis project is again very, very broad and open-ended. And we do provide a list of sample thesis projects that students can absolutely do if they so wish, but really more often generally students come up with their own projects, and they work with an academic in our course who will be their supervisor to really refine their idea and develop it for implementing it over the summer. And as I said, the range of topics here is again very, very broad, depending on the student's particular area of interest. So some of our students, for their thesis, they go very strongly into the kind of creative aspect, looking at kind of music composition or audiovisual composition or sound design in gaming or in film or in theater, or some other activities that are very much focused on creative composition or creative work. Other students, however, go much more into kind of the technical side of things, looking at developing new tools, new reverb plugins, new software applications for creating music, or working in kind of that area, or indeed working in acoustics or sound design, or acoustics or perception, and issues kind of related to that as well. Other students look at things like interactive installations, looking at the kind of the hardware and software design involved with that, as well as, the aesthetical and creative kind of aspects of these kinds of interactive installations as well. And again, it can involve many, many other topics as well, ranging from XR to, as I said, sound design, education applications, or kind of topics related to education associated with music and media, and a wide variety of other topics as well. If you go to our website, the showcase page there will give you a really strong flavor of, the many different kind of thesis projects that our students have engaged with over the last 20, nearly 30 years now at this point, and we'll give you a good flavor of that. And the whole kind of course of the structure of the course then culminates at the end of August with the graduate exhibition, which is a public exhibition where the students then demonstrate their thesis project and the work they've engaged with over the summer. And a little bit later on, I'll show a short little kind of video clip demonstrating some of that from, I think from 2 years ago, to give you a flavor of that. So just before we kind of go on and talk a bit more about the core modules, I suppose I'll talk about the kind of career opportunities. As I said, all of our academic staff are practitioners and are very active both in research and in their professional kind of careers as well. So throughout the year, there will be many kind of guest lectures and engagement with figures from industry and companies like Dolby and DTS, other companies like Google, Facebook, many of the recording studios based in Dublin and further afield, software developers that have built music applications. These people would be regularly coming in to talk to our students about the kind of work that they are engaged with. And likewise, I mean, Emma here, who's a graduate from our program, who graduated last year, she's currently working as a research assistant in Enterprise Ireland, a research-funded project that is based in our building, looking at the use of spatial audio for the production of podcasts and radio dramas, and in particular looking at the development of tools that producers of such content can use without maybe necessarily having to be an expert in audio engineering and spatial audio, right? So developing simpler tools to do that kind of work, right? So again, this is a kind of an example of the way in which our kind of teaching is very much research led, and the kind of connections that we have with industry more broadly as well. In terms of career opportunities, again, it is very, very broad, and it depends very much on the particular focus that students spend in their thesis project and which area they take the course. And again, we try and support a wide range of different opportunities in that regard. Music is obviously a big one. Many of our students go on to become composers, musicians, performers, composers for film, for theater, for gaming, for example, or working with sound design in kind of similar areas as well, working in kind of audio or kind of audio-visual production in TV and in film and theater, and software development is a big one as well. We have some graduates working in Google, for example, who would be deeply involved in the kind of tools and software that Google developed for working with VR and XR, particularly spatial audio, and how that is implemented in game engines for VR, for example. Also working in theater, gaming, kind of interactive media. One which I forgot to list on the slide here would also be acoustics and kind of audio engineering in that regard as well. And one facility which we've actually just opened in our building just last week, as it happens, is a new recording studio that is Dolby Atmos compliant. So we have loudspeakers in the ceiling and kind of all around the room. And we hired a professional acoustics company in Dublin, iAcoustics, to do the acoustics treatment for the room and the calibration and the setup of the loudspeaker array. And the principal engineer who was working on all of that was a graduate of our program. So it was really nice to have kind of Owen back in to do that kind of work for us. And indeed, our main recording studio was set up by the same company. And again, the principal engineer behind that was another former student of ours who has since gone on to found his own acoustics company based in the Midlands as well. So acoustics and engineering would be another kind of big area that our students get into. And I suppose one other area as well would be, getting into further education, right? Going on to do PhD studies. And a number of our students every year go that route as well. And just recently, a PhD student I was supervising, Mauricio, he just finally successfully completed his PhD. And I mention him because he's an interesting example of the kind of paths that students can take to our program. And Mauricio originally studied music. Classical guitar was his principal undergraduate degree. He did our program then in MMT, the master's, and then went on to do a PhD in XR predominantly, which involved a lot of quite significant kind of software development, developing XR applications to look at the trade-offs in kind of fidelity and audio fidelity and visual fidelity in XR, and how that impacts on things like the sense of immersion and presence in kind of XR environments as well. So again, that was quite technical in lots of ways, both in terms of the development of these kinds of experience, but also in terms of the kind of the assessment of these perceptual characteristics like, immersion and presence, which is a long way from classical guitar. And that kind of path where people change direction is very much kind of a feature of what our kind of course offers in other directions as well. So Myself, I am a graduate of this program. I studied electronic engineering in my undergrad. I ended up doing a PhD in kind of music composition. So I was kind of the opposite kind of path that Mauricio took, but that is kind of something that is very kind of characteristic of our program. So that's just kind of a flavor of the career opportunities. Again, if you look at the showcase page of our website, you can read interviews with a number of our former graduates talking about what the careers they're in now and how MMT kind of helped prepare them for that as well. Okay, James, if you could move on to the next slide, please, that would be great. So I won't go through necessarily all of the different modules, but just to say that, it is a broad range of coverage of different types of modules, but a general kind of tendency would be this combination of kind of innovative and creative kind of artistic work with a really solid grounding in kind of fundamental scientific kind of principles and applications. So obviously we teach practical skills in terms of how to work with kind of music software and video software and a variety of other kind of software applications. But fundamentally, we're always looking to go a little bit deeper than that and really trying to understand from first principles what's really going on underneath the hood of all of these different applications and these different technologies. And then also what this enables us to do from a creative perspective as well. And really all of our modules involve this kind of dual approach of looking at first principles and theoretical basis behind all these technologies, what all of this implies then in terms of the creative work that we can do with this, and also just really understanding the kind of the practical skills associated with that. So in semester one then, as I said, there are two core modules, acoustics and auditory perception and research methods. And then students can pick 4 elective modules from the range that we see here. And so I won't go through them all, but very briefly, creative coding is very much an introductory coding module for people who are maybe less experienced in that kind of area. Visual music, which goes across both semesters, looks at video editing and image editing and how this can be combined with audio and music to create kind of new applications. So a new kind of creative artwork. So it involves a lot of practical skills, but also elements of kind of composition as well. Electroacoustic composition is a module I teach, and again, it spreads across 2 semesters, and it looks at music composition that is not score-based. So it doesn't require kind of formal music training, being able to sight read music or anything like that. Again, it's looking at kind of electronic music predominantly, and really, again, kind of examining the tools that are available now and how we can use these to create new sounds and new forms of music, which then crosses over into other areas as well, including sound design, for example. What is the other one I was going to talk about? Sonic Arts, and it's kind of other complementary module, Sonic Practice in semester 2, is looking at music composition with a slightly more emphasis on acoustic instrument writing and orchestration, and a little bit more emphasis on kind of traditional kind of notation as well. But again, involving technology and looking at this from a kind of a creative perspective in terms of how technology can kind of inform new forms of music as well. Audio engineering, and it's kind of complemented semester 2. Audio production techniques is, as the name suggests, looking at how to record and produce audio using our recording studio in live kind of performance context, as well as kind of field recording, which again crosses over into a variety of different domains from sound design, composition, and a variety of other kind of areas like that as well. Introduction to Maximus P looks at a very particular package, Maximus P, which is very, very widely used in a variety of kind of audio-visual contexts. It's used for prototyping new applications. It can be used for the design of audio plugins, visual plugins, for interactive applications. It's a very powerful application as well, particularly in kind of installations and contexts like that. And it's a kind of a graphical programming language that has its own quirks. It's a little bit different from kind of traditional programming languages, but is very, very powerful and very, very useful in kind of real-time applications or applications that have a very strong kind of audio or audio-visual or musical kind of application as well. A few of the other ones I haven't really mentioned yet. Digital signal processing is a module that we offer that is actually an engineering module, but we offer to MMT students. It's maybe a little bit more orientated to students at MMT that come from a more technical background, but complements nicely with things like acoustics and auditory perception in terms of how we can kind of process different signals in this way that is informed by what we have learned in terms of the nature of kind of auditory perception as well. And then finally, in semester 2, we also have 2 other modules. Spatial audio, which is one that I teach, is looking at this whole kind of emerging area of how we can recreate sounds from every direction. So not just in front of us, from above, from behind, from the sides, from different distances and so on. And something that is a really key component of, say, all XR technologies, for example. It's not really an optional extra in VR. It's something that is inherent and functionally important. So we look at that in that context, as well as spatial audio being used in kind of cinema, in theater, and of course in music as well. Many music streaming platforms now kind of support spatial audio, and particularly using this kind of Dolby Atmos kind of technique. And so that's something that we look at in detail there as well. And then finally, one other module is the introduction to XR technologies, where again, we look at virtual and augmented reality, looking at both the practical skills in terms of developing applications in this type of media, as well as kind of questioning, what this all means from a creative kind of context, and what does kind of VR enable us to do in terms of new types of music composition or new types of sound design, how it kind of works in terms of music composition and sound design in a VR game as opposed to a traditional game, for example, and a variety of other areas as well. So that's kind of just a broad overview of the different elective modules. And as I mentioned, students are not required to pick these in advance. They select them at the end of the first week of the first semester, once you've met all the lecturers and have a better idea of what's involved. The thesis, the graduate exhibition that happens at the end of the summer, which I've kind of mentioned already. It's a public exhibition where the students get to kind of show off all of their thesis work. And I have a short little teaser video here, which
yes, I can play that.
Yeah, let's see if we can play this, which is I think from 2 years ago, and we'll give you an idea of what we do. Now, let me see. I'm not sure if I can get sound with this, which is somewhat ironic. No, afraid not. Okay, well, we'll have to live without that. But that's something you can find on our webpage as well. And again, it's a really nice way of kind of rounding out the entire kind of 12 months of study with this kind of public-facing exhibition. I should mention as well, it is also possible to do our program part-time over 2 years. It's exactly the same content, except you do half the number of modules in each semester over 2 years, and then culminate with the thesis in the second year, just as before. The structure as well is about 2 to 3 contact hours per module each week. So again, most days you would have a lecture, but also then time to work on your assignments and your research as well. Okay, and just one more slide then. I think, James, very briefly, just talk about the kind of facilities we have in the course. So again, this has been updated. We've actually just added in a number of new facilities just this year. In fact, in the last couple of weeks, really. So we have a fully fledged recording studio with a control room and a live room, alongside a surround sound system there, a 7.1 surround system, various kind of outboard geared, and as of yesterday, we also have a grand piano in our recording studio now as well, which is a really nice thing to have. As I said, we've just opened a second studio now as well, which is a Dolby Atmos compliant studio, particularly focused on kind of spatial audio work, but can be used for other forms of audio production as well. So that's kind of a nice facility to have too. Just this year, we've also opened up another kind of creative studio or production studio, the electroacoustic music workshop that we call it here. And this is, again, more intended towards creative work. So this is a studio that would have various synthesizers, lots of effects units and musical instruments, again, alongside a kind of a Genelec surround sound system too. And is more intended towards creative kind of compositional work as well as some kind of desktop-based VR machines in there as well. Our main teaching space, again, would have a surround sound system, so lots of loudspeakers and other equipment. And we have a whole range of different kind of music hardware and software that students are actually required to borrow and kind of take out of the building and go out into the world to use in order to complete their kind of assignment work throughout the semester as well. And we are based in the Stack B building that you can see here, predominantly on the ground floor with some of the studios in the basement as well. And if you stay tuned to our website, hopefully in the next month or so, we will have a new facilities page that will give more specific details on all of the facilities that we have now in the program. Okay, I think that's pretty much everything from me. Thanks, James.
Okay, thanks again, and for that. That was a very insightful kind of overview of the program. I'm just going to run through a few kind of slides just before the end of the presentation, because I'm sure people have lots of questions to ask, particularly of our two student guests here today, or the student and graduate, I should say. I think we did cover this quite a bit in the previous slides, but just to confirm, it is a one-year taught master's program, or both of these programs are one-year taught master's programs. So it's a kind of 9 months of lectures over two semesters, and then a 3-month thesis over the summer. I imagine some of you will have already applied, but if you haven't, it's a relatively straightforward process. You essentially go to the course page, and at the bottom there should be a link there to apply. You submit an application form on our website, and you kind of fill in your personal details, and then upload any relevant documentation, such as your transcripts. Maybe if you're not from an English speaking country, or an English language test. And for both of these programs as well, you will need to upload a portfolio of kind of a sample of your work. We appreciate that coming to study a postgraduate degree is a major decision, and you'll naturally have lots of questions. We do provide a chat to our students facility where you can pose a question directly to one of our current students, and they'll come back to you with answers. So if you have things like questions about what it's like to study on our programs, student life in Trinity and Dublin in general, you can talk to these students, and they will come back to give you an informed response about student life in Dublin. I mentioned briefly at the beginning of the presentation that we are providing a scholarship program or a scholarship opportunity, I should say, for students studying on the E3 courses. So if you are in the position of having an offer for one of these programs, or I would encourage you to apply for these scholarships. We do offer a number of them every year, and they're valued between 2,000 and 5,000 euros each. It's essentially kind of you fill in a short application form on our website and submit a 200-word personal statement, and we'll make a decision based on that information and let you know the outcome. Okay, that brings us to the end of the formal part of the presentation, and we'll now move on to the Q&A portion. Now it's a great time to put any questions in the chat that you'd like to ask either Mads or Enda, myself, or Emma or Nashwa. What I might do is actually just to kind of to bring Emma and Nashwa into it a bit. I might ask you a bit about what drew you to the program in the first place. So Nashwa, do you want to go ahead and answer that first?
Yes, hi. So what brought me here is because I have been working in the game industry for about 7 years, and my bachelor's was actually different. It was in fine arts. So I had a big interest in gaming, and I jumped right into it. But I spent so much time doing the same thing over and over again. I felt like I wasn't learning. So I felt like at some point that I needed guidance, and I wanted to create some pivot, not necessarily out of the game industry, but I also wanted to learn new technical skills. And I've looked into so many universities, and IDM was one of the best postgraduate programs I met, because it doesn't require me to have so much knowledge in programming, or if not at all. And I had a lot of interest in learning technical skills. So I came here with a goal in the beginning to dive deeper into technical skills for the game industry and become a technical artist. But over the time, I kept an open mind and I found myself getting interested in other stuff, like front end, for example, and designing for accessibility. So right now, I'm becoming more interested in combining my past experience, gamification of apps for cognitive learning. So this is one of the things I've never heard about before. And through this course and through the guidance of my professors, it's becoming clearer what I want to do after. And I would really advise everyone if they come with an open mind, even if they have a goal, to try new things and explore new skills into each modules and use the knowledge of our professors and any possibility of whether we have guest lectures or whether we have alumni talk. It's really important to get connected here. So
That's great. Thank you. Emma, would you like to kind of answer that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I have a different background to Nashua, but similar kind of motivations for choosing the course. So my background is very much in music and musicology. I did a humanities degree and I loved it so much. But then afterwards, I was kind of wondering what I was going to do afterwards and kind of career-wise, wasn't entirely sure. And then I found the MIT course and thought, oh, really interesting. Again, it is this whole idea of you can come from one discipline and pivot into another, or you can kind of experience lots of different aspects of various different disciplines. And particularly, I think we've talked a lot about the fact that all the students on the course come from very different backgrounds. I found that really helpful when I was on the MMT course because there were quite a few people in my cohort as well who had had really interesting careers and had kind of come to MMT from very different places and worked in different industries and different areas. And even just chatting to them informally in classes and stuff really gave me a lot of ideas of kind of where I wanted to go. So yeah, I kind of came at MMT from a humanities background, wanting to go towards a more technical standpoint, but MMT in particular, the kind of I can't remember what it's been changed to. When I did it, it was called the psychoacoustics module, but the acoustics and like auditory perception module, that was one of the things that drew me mainly to it because it was kind of looking at the technical aspect, but with this more holistic view and kind of more of a kind of yeah, you do a lot of theoretical stuff as well, which I really appreciated, and is very relevant to what I'm doing now. So yeah, it was really useful.
Would you say that there was a particular was there a module that you most particularly enjoyed? And, did that kind of help you or provide any sort of lead into what you're currently doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. There was very, very much a few different, I think as Enda sort of spoke about in his presentation, you can very much choose kind of a very creative route, or you can choose a technical route, or you can very much combine the two and do like a bit of both. I went down a kind of more technical route. I really enjoyed the spatial audio module, which is Enda's. But that's actually really what I'm doing now. My role as research assistant in Trinity is in spatial audio. So that one really influenced kind of where I'm headed. And actually, from doing that in MMT and then from doing my current position now, that is very much where I want to head in the future, which would have had no idea that before I started MMT, which is kind of the exciting part. Like, I didn't even know what spatial audio was before I started MMT, and now I'm like, that's what I want to work in. So it's really good. And the creative coding modules as well. Again, I hadn't done any coding before I came, but I did a little bits before I started. I kind of researched a little bit about, we use the processing language platform quite a lot in MMT, so I did a bit of research on that, watched a few videos on it, decided this is really feels like something I'm really enjoying. So those modules and the interactive media module as well, which was very cool, very creative. You got to really decide. It was really interesting because you kind of had this idea of something you wanted to make, and everybody's was so different. And then by the end, everybody had such amazing outcomes from that module. So
yeah, that's great. I'm really pleased to hear that there was that kind of that the course helped you find something that you were really interested in and wanted to go on to do. Nashua, could I ask you the same question? If there was a particular module or something you got to do so far on the course that you've really enjoyed?
It's hard to pick actually. There are lots of fun modules, but I would say The most interesting one was the one that I never enjoyed before, which is the authoring for digital media. That I never imagined myself doing any kind of web development. However, when I started learning about it, it became very interesting, and it's really fun to develop something into something visual, and you can run it and people can view it for you. The second one would be the interactive coding, as Emma already mentioned, and processing. So since I didn't have much in skills in coding, I'm starting to learn this processing language for the first time, and turning complete blank code into something interactive or an installation art, that was particularly amazing. And we're currently working on one of these projects, which is very open to use game engines as well in the process. So it's one of the things to look forward to.
And that's great. No, it's kind of good to hear as well that the kind of the overall experience was very kind of helpful to you and your kind of your career objectives. What I might ask just again, in terms of student life, did you find that any of the we uh, like many other universities, we have a lot of student societies on campus, and I wondered, were you involved in any of the music or film kind of societies that kind of helped that would have been related to the subject area that you're studying? Either Nashua or Emma, if either of you, if you're either of you are involved with, say, a music or a kind of film or gaming society.
For myself, I'm not involved with any filming or music
Okay.
society,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
am involved with the Computer Science Society, which
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
they do offer some really insightful workshops and talks from people in the industry. They brought someone from Google before, and they kind of open up opportunities for graduate programs. So it's one of the things to look forward to for societies. There's also a gaming society that I keep hearing about from my colleagues, which might be quite interesting for people interested in games.
Yeah, I didn't. One of the questions in the chat as well is asking about student organizations for postgraduate students. The societies, the extracurriculars in Trinity are available for undergraduate and postgraduate students. All of them are, which is nice. I joined a few. I didn't join any specifically for related to kind of computer science and engineering, even though there are some. There's a film society which looks really, really interesting, and they meet for coffees kind of every week, and they watch films together and discuss, which is really nice. The music societies are really active as well. There's lots of different ones kind of for whichever music you're interested in. I think there's one for DJs, there's one for jazz. I joined the Trad Music Society because I really enjoy that, and I play the Irish tin whistle. So that was a really nice one to join, and also just feeling a little bit more kind of integrated into Trinity life, which was really
Yeah.
nice. And sporting society as well. There's climbing societies. There's
Yeah.
rowing. There's just basically any that you can want.
Yeah.
But
I
there
mean,
are
yeah. I think there's well over 100 societies, and then frankly, if
yeah,
the most of if you've an interest, there's probably a society that kind of caters to that. What
exactly.
would you say as well is just for Emma and Nashua, if I could just ask you, what advice would you give to a student maybe who is currently considering doing one of these programs? Would there any, like, looking back on your experience, is there any advice you'd particularly give to them?
Yeah, I think for me the most useful thing was reading through all of the module descriptors online because they're all there and they're detailed really well, exactly what is kind of taught in each one and what is required for each one. And I read through those uh, quite a lot. And basically, as I was reading through them, I was getting quite excited about the thought of studying these specific areas. So I think that's a really good, useful thing to do. Again, the MMT, I can't speak for IDM, but for MMT, the website has a lot of resources. I think Enda was mentioning earlier, interviews with previous students, and there's videos of the kind of graduate showcases. And I think there's on the YouTube channel, there's the live electronics videos, which are really good to watch. You can kind of see the types of things you can make in the course. So yeah, just kind of doing all that, reaching out to maybe previous students. I think 'cause the more information you can get about what it'll be like if you arrive, then you can make a more informed choice.
I would definitely second that, and reaching out to current students as well is very helpful. That's one of the things that made me decide to come, hearing from their experiences and seeing some of the work that they did as well. Feel free to ask people on LinkedIn, they'd be happy to help. And one of the core skills that you would probably better come with is time management. Try to work on that before coming because the course is quite intensive and it can be challenging at some point. We've got lots of assignments. And while this is really exciting, it's really important to learn how to do time management on your own. So nobody will teach you that, but it's a personal skill that is really good to develop here.
Yeah.
That's very true. It's it's a personal skill that really kind of universities need to teach, and it is something that you'll need for the rest of your kind of work experience as well. I'm just seeing we're kind of coming up to 10 past 1 here, so I might just kind of wrap up the session because I appreciate that I think Enda and Mads need to go on to other either teaching or other events, but I would just kind of say again that if you have any questions about these programs, feel free to drop us an email at any point. Also, if you want to speak to one of the admissions officers about the program, you can book. There's a link on our website for you to book a one-to-one call with us where we're happy to speak to you about the programs and answer any questions you might have. But I'd just like to thank you all for attending today, in particular the panel for Enda and Mads giving up their time out of their teaching schedules and research time. Emma and Nashua to give up your busy time as well. And in general, for anybody who's either has an offer or is thinking about joining us next year, I look forward to welcoming you to our campus next September. And thank you all.
Thanks, James. Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
Thanks,
Thank you
everybody.
all.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye.